So in a previous video, I talked to you all about the fact that I come out to the RV, even though we keep it at our property and we keep it kind of winterized to a degree without having to do any of the major winterization that you might typically have to do, because we still use the RV, and because of the mild climates that we have down here in South Texas, it's not as important to do some of the winterization things you may do whenever you're going to put your RV in long-term storage in the central part of the US or up north. That being said, today's going to be an interesting video because, I talk to you all about periodically coming out and visiting your RV, and because we have access to ours, I like to come out here multiple times a week and spend some time inside of it, open things up. But let's talk about some of the things that we're going to do out here today. Anyways, hang tight, I'll be right back. All right, so I explained that we've had some really kind of interesting wintry mix weather coming through, high winds, cold fronts, all that stuff. And I like to put the slides in if at all possible, simply because it avoids you possibly damaging the slide top awnings if wind catches them. So all the slides are in. The first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and open up all the slides. I can do that from my really cool LCI application. First thing I want to do is go to my slides, and I'm going to open up the main slide right here first. Having remote access to opening up your slides is really, really nice. But there is a downfall to this. And the downfall is that if there's something inside that might be in the way, or maybe something that have fallen while you were traveling, it could get caught in between the trim of the slide and the actual slide when you're pushing them out. So you do want to be very careful if there are things that could accidentally fall or kind of tumble around if you're traveling, and understand what could potentially gum up your slide or jam it up if you're not careful. We're going to go to the other side where the other three slides are. Next one we're going to push out is going to be the kitchen slide. You can see the angle it starts at, because it's essentially lifting it kind of up and then out, and then it drops down into its spot that it's going to be braced. This is essentially called a rack and pinion slide, or a through frame slide, because the metal reinforcements, or the metal bracing that holds this in place, actually go into holes in the frame. I'm going to push out my bunk slide. This slide, I don't really need to push out, to be honest, because I don't go in here, but I might bring my daughter out here a little bit later, and she always likes to play in the bunkhouse, so we'll go ahead and have that one pushed out as well. And then after this one extends a little further than the others. I go through and always make sure the little seals push all the way out. I know the kitchen one didn't, but I'll go back and grab it in a second. And then finally, the bed slide. And again, you can kind of see the angle it starts at. It's interesting that these slides are actually designed with the top at a pitch, so if you don't have slide top awnings, the water or whatever collects on them can kind of run down the front. It actually runs right to this little area, and then it comes down the side right here. All right, we got everything pushed out now. We're in good shape. So I can check my tire link system as well, because I currently have that installed on here. Shows that the front tire's at 101 psi, and the rest of them are between 106 and 100 psi. That's because we had some really cold weather that came through here, and it adjusted the tire pressure because of that. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and disarm my alarm system that I keep inside. I'm going to go ahead and open it up, but before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the propane on up front, because I do want to check the furnace. I actually haven't ran the furnace since we've had it in storage, and I believe I have this one still connected. So I'm going to start up the generator, I'm going to run the furnace, just basically go through it and make sure that everything's set. And the reason for all this isn't the fact that I'm just coming out here to check on it, but we're actually going to have some guests over, and we're going to use the RV as kind of an entertaining ground for them. So they're going to be able to stay in it and use it as almost a little apartment on site. So let's get everything opened up. Okay, so all the slides are out. I'm going to open up some of these blinds a little bit, let a little bit of light in. These are really, really great, especially if you have an RV in an area that's going to be really sunny, because they can block a lot of radiant heat from making it inside of your RV, and it can keep it a lot cooler, especially if it's in storage. Plus, if you're at a campground and you want to sleep in a little longer, they certainly can block a lot of light out, which is always nice if you want to get a good night's sleep. But yeah, this is essentially what it looks like whenever you open up most of the windows. I didn't open up this one, I didn't open up that one, but nice and bright. You got a couple lights on. Let's go and try to kick the furnace on and see how that works. All right, so again, we haven't ran the furnace in here since it's been cold outside, and I'm gonna run it right now. We typically will use the little fireplace we have up there if we're gonna be in here. But again, if it's super, super, super cold, we just haven't been in here recently, and the inside is 54 degrees right now. So we're gonna try to raise that up a little bit. So I'm gonna put the system into heat mode. I'm gonna change it to gas and see if we can get the temperature a little higher in here. Okay, there we go. And you feel the hot air coming out of here, which means that it's ignited, it's heating up the air, blowers blowing by it, and again, you can feel the nice warm air. If you're outside and you're working on your RV, here's a nice little hack for you. Your hands are freezing cold, just put them right about here, they'll warm up nicely. Let's move back inside. Okay, so we're back inside. I'm in the mid bunk now. This is actually closest to the furnace, which is right on the other side of this wall. And it's blowing a lot of air. I mean, yeah, I'm getting a lot of air and it's really nice and warm coming from there. As I go up into the bedroom and bathroom, the vent, I think, is covered right here. There it is. Good air coming in there. I'm just checking for blocked vents. Nice warm air coming from that one. And I think that's the only one in here. Okay, so I've also checked that vent and this vent over here. Everything's working well. Stove, of course, is pumping gas out. Let's turn this bad boy on. Turn that on right there. And cool thing is you can change the color back here, which is really nice. That's your timer. This is my thermostat. So I can put this on high. Instant, nice warm air coming through here. But yeah, you can really change the ambience by messing with these colors. All right, let's see if we can get this place warmed up a little bit. And with the temperature outside being in the mid-50s, we're going to see how long it takes to warm the inside of the fifth wheel up with the furnace on and the fireplace up front. We'll see kind of how high we can get it here, and I'll touch base with you right now. So it is 12:11, right past noon, and we'll come back here in a little bit to see how much warmer it's gotten. Okay, so 10 minutes has gone by. It is now 12:21, and we're up to 59 degrees, so it's gone up about 4 degrees. But yeah, it's getting more and more comfortable in here, and well, almost. Well, there we go, 60 degrees. Now it's gone up 4 degrees. It feels warmer than that. I actually had to take my coat off because, yeah, it was getting a little warm, so certainly heating up. And it's doing it pretty quickly, too. Okay, so another 5 minutes has gone by. We're up to 62 degrees, so another 2 degrees. It's doing pretty well. So just checking back with the thermostat, looks like we're hovering between 70 and 71 degrees. I set the thermostat for 71 degrees, so the furnace is shut off. And yeah, it's definitely done its job bringing it up to temperature from 56 degrees. Okay, so we got the RV all set up. It's actually the following day I got called away and had to do something. So what we're looking at right here are two Flexzilla hoses that I have. This is a 100-foot hose and this is a 50-foot hose. And I want to give a big shout out to the folks who have channels and who have reviewed these and who recommended getting these over some of the other hoses that are on the market. But the ones we've had in the RV, we've actually used them quite a bit and they hold up really well, so we're real happy with them. But you may be asking, why do I have 150 feet worth of Flexzilla hoses if I have a well right here? Well, I found out something that I didn't know, and this was something that I found out kind of recently. There's two wells on this property. There's this well, and then there's another one for the cabin. The one for the cabin is a deep well. It goes down about 180 feet. This one is a shallow well. It only goes down about 80 feet. And because of that, the water is very, very sandy, and it stinks. I mean, I would have to filter a ton of this in order for it to be drinkable. And I just don't feel like doing that, to be honest with you. I think it makes more sense to just run water from the deep well because it is available. And when we first bought the property, what we were told was the spigot that's right over here next to that fence, you probably can't see it, but that this hose is running from was part of the shallow well. And when we found out that this was a shallow well and the water's not good to drink, we instantly were like, man, well, that kind of stinks because we can't use the water here for drinking. However, we recently found out that that is actually coming from the much more pure deep well. The reason we found that out is because we were using it to fill the actual pond up. And then we found out very quickly that we were using the really clean water to fill the pond, and we were using this water for nothing at all. So the Flexzilla hoses are essentially going to run from that fence right over here where that gate is over to the RV. And then I bought a little spigot thing that we're going to stab in the ground to be able to turn the water on and off at kind of a closer point. Okay, so we have the 100-foot stretch of hose already laid out. I made it to here, and then I have the 50-foot stretch, which is going to go to the RV. Might actually be a 75-foot length of hose. I can't remember exactly what I ordered. But instead of pounding this thing into the ground, because unless you concrete it in, it's never really going to hold that well, especially if you put any weight on this, I just zip tied it to the leg of the windmill. And then I'm going to put my regulator on and an inline filter. That way, it just filters anything else that could be coming through the line, especially because it's well water. So I could always use my my clear source filter, but I'm still trying to figure out how I want to position that. If I want that to be attached to the RV or if I want it to be out here. If I put it out here, I'll probably clear the top of this well right here off and kind of mount it there, or mount it up on the actual steel support work up here that the pump control box is on. But yeah, let's go ahead and get the Flexzilla connected to the back of this and the regulator connected to the front. You know, and I just came out here and thought of something. I don't keep the water running to the RV all the time, and because I had to throw an extra length of hose in anyways to reach the RV, why put the spigot on the windmill leg when I could put it right here on the camera and light post? So I just zip tied it to the side of this. That way I literally just walk to the back of the RV to open my water spigot up, and I have water in the RV as opposed to walking over there. And you know, it's a difference between 40 feet, but at the same time, you know, convenience is a nice thing. And since I just have to walk right up to it, get the water pressure up to 60 psi, and just by turning it on, now I have water in the RV. So very, very convenient to have the water spigot right here. And I'll probably put something more permanent. I mean, I don't really like the way any of the hose looks across the yard, so I'll probably have PVC ran from over there all the way to over here so I can have water right next to the RV, while at the same time trying to figure out how I want to handle maybe adding some type of a holding tank or something out here that that's approved for septic use, and I can just drain the RV into that, and then whenever I have the septic folks come to the house to drain the septic tank there, they can drain this one at the same time. But yeah, it's definitely working out well. Very, very happy with the setup. Okay, we have it all connected. I heard the water instantly start flowing in the minute I let go of the connection back here. So it means we have water going into the RV. I don't see any issues with any water leaking. Looks like we're in pretty good shape. I might get a little stand or a brick just to kind of elevate this on because, you know, I don't want it dragging if I can avoid it. I could probably just set it over the generator exhaust pipe. Now I know that just sounds terrible to most people, but the fact is I'm probably not going to start the generator over here as long as I have, you know, full connection. If anything, I might just run the generator, which is a good thing to do monthly, you know, just run it occasionally, especially if it's a gas generator. This one actually uses propane fuel, which, you know, you generally don't have to worry about. But with gas, you still want to move the oils and everything through the engine, keep it lubricated. But if I do that, I'll easily just pull this thing down so it's not touching the exhaust pipe right here. I've actually considered rerouting this exhaust from here to like right here, just because, you know, where the water kind of drops down here, any lines that come up through the bottom, they're right next to that pipe, and I prefer to keep that away if I can. But yeah, I think this should work okay for me right now. And we're gonna go ahead and go inside and test everything out. Okay, so now comes the fun task of testing out the water to see if we're in good shape. First thing I'm gonna do is move the dehumidifier out of the sink. And we're gonna check the faucet first. That's pretty nice. That's cold. All right, so we know we have water coming through there. I can hear it going down the drain. Time to go to the bathroom, lavatory, restroom, whatever you want to call it. And if you guys don't remember, that is so awesome. The ability to open up the bathroom door so it perfectly fits the hallway, magnetically attaches and blocks it off. Okay, next we're gonna check out the bathroom or the toilet. Very, very nice. I'm gonna have to pull all this out. Got a little stain there because we had a bottle tip over whenever we were towing it. I'm gonna move this out completely so I can at least turn the shower on and check it out. Now, let's see if we have water in here, which I suspect we do. Let's throw that up there. Whew, a little surge of water. So if we have the water heater on, we'd be able to tell. I have both of them open. That's going to be my hot water off. Still have water coming through. Cold water off. Still have water coming through. So it gives me an opportunity to at least get all this clean in here. And you can see it surging a little bit. That's just water filling in all the little air gaps that are essentially filled in the water lines right now. So it's purging air out of the system. Very, very common. You might have a lot of air in your system too. And because your plumbing branches off in so many different directions, you may constantly get little air bubbles as air is bled out of some of those areas that are closed off. So it's always a good idea to come through and open up everything just so you get all the air out that you can. Another example of where you may get more air purging out of the lines. All right. So everything seems to be working from a water perspective. The next thing I want to do is actually go and turn the water heater on. First I got to open up the propane so we can test that. Yeah, when I left last night, I turned the propane off. I usually make that a practice. Mainly I wanted to just test to make sure it worked. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and turn on the water heater now. And you know, once I kick this thing on, it's going to be the gas water heater and usually electric. It doesn't hurt to turn them both on. But I should be able to go down here to the mid bunk. You should hear it start to click on. Let's see. It'll take a few seconds here, and it's right below the furnace. Actually, I think it already clicked on. Let's go outside and check it out. Yeah, if it clicked on, it did it very quietly. Yep, it's on. Good deal. So, actually, I'm going to open this up real quick. Make sure we don't have anything caught up in here. And I check this quite often, so I'm pretty sure I don't. So it looks like we're in good shape. What I mean by caught up is like a wasp nest or a dirt dauber, something like that. Underneath, I actually have a Simply Safe water leak detector. It's a little sensor on the ground, and it's right behind where the water heater is. So if there's any water or connection that leaks, hopefully it'll alert me to let me know that I have a water problem. And you know, RV plumbing isn't what I would consider to be the most sophisticated, best, or highest quality plumbing out there, so there's always a chance, and the last thing I want to do is deal with that. But yeah, let's hop back inside. The water certainly hasn't had time to really heat up anything, but once it does, we'll have nice hot water inside of the RV as well for our guests. Very, very cool. And something else I'll probably do whenever we leave, I'll just go out to that little valve I put in place and I'll just turn off the water, just so there's no pressure on the pipes. That's probably the single biggest concern I have with leaving water, you know, pressurized in the system when I'm not in the RV, simply because I don't want a pipe to burst or to leak and I'm not here to know about it. So if I turn the water off at that spigot over there, at least I know there's not going to be pressurized water in the system. There still may be water in it, but not pressurized. And it's always important at that point to make sure your water heater is off and just close off the propane as well. So you just don't have the risk that there's going to be any type of a fire-related incident. All right, so just going to check the water temperature real quick. We've had the water heater running for a while now. I have it both on electrical and on gas, so hot water should be coming through these lines relatively soon. I can feel it starting to heat up right now. And there's my hot water. So it's not burning hot yet, but it's definitely very warm. The water in the tank, which is I think a 10-gallon quick recovery water heater tank, isn't going to heat up that fast. But the water's certainly warm enough to take a shower. That's probably the best way to say it. You could take a shower in this and you'd feel perfectly fine. You wouldn't feel like it was too hot or too cold. The longer I let it stay in there, the more it's going to heat up. And you know, I've considered putting like a on-demand water system in place or water heater in place. You know, basically what you saw in the Van Lee Beacon. There's a few companies that make them. I'm still on the fence on whether or not I want to put that in here. And the main reason why is because if for some reason you lose power, just like your home, a instant on-demand water heating system is gone. There's no hot water. All you're going to get is cold water, because if the system can't constantly be heating up water, you're out of luck. And I know they make propane systems, but the brain of it is still electrical. Whereas on something like this, even though you're only going to have maybe 10 gallons of hot water that's inside of that hot water tank, you still have some hot water. So if you need to take a rinse, if you need to do something, especially if it's really cold outside, you have that opportunity. You just have to really conserve water while you're doing it. But at least you have a little bit of an opportunity to, you know, use some hot water without it just completely going out on you. But that's the main reason. And yeah, I was able to get the little shampoo stain that was right here off, no problem at all. Got the shower all cleaned out. Got this little thing replunged on. The folks at Coachman, they actually put this on when they built the RV for me. This stuff up here is all attached to the wall and screwed in, but this one right here was just suctioned on and it fell off, so I had to just reattach it. Shower's been holding up really good. Overall usage of this RV since we got it in February of last year, or March of last year, in that range, I believe we took it out 10 or 12 times. 10 or 12 times. It's kind of a blur. Last year was so crazy. It really was. But yeah, we've gotten some use out of it, and it's been a really fun RV to have. Anyways, I think we are pretty much ready for business. I mean, we have the space now. This is like our own little apartment out here. If I do collaborations with folks, if I have guests come over, we can use it for that. We can take it camping. We're already plotting out our 2022 camping season. We have several places that we plan on visiting this year. I think total number of trips we have planned is 16 trips this year. For, you know, a weekend warrior, it's not that bad. For, I know you full-timers who travel all over the country, you know, if you're Keep Your Daydream or any of the other big YouTube channels that focus on travel, you know, that's just a fraction of what you guys probably do in a month. But for the typical family who uses their RV for, you know, recreational camping to get away from their busy lives and things like that, you know, I think 16 trips is a pretty good number. Last year, even though you didn't see a lot of the trips, and I've made that point multiple times in videos, that as far as family time and things like that, I don't broadcast a lot of that. That's my time to unwind. I try to put a video out every single day for you all. And the reason why I separate camping trips most of the time from RV related videos and reviews and things like that is because the amount of time it takes to edit, the amount of time you're not spending with your family when you're doing videos is already pretty tedious. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to have my family sitting on a couch here and the whole time I'm editing when we're supposed to be on vacation, or the whole time I'm filming them when we're supposed to be on vacation. You know, my wife has a channel, Mrs. BTBRV. I recommend checking it out. It's her perspective on things. This is my channel. I try to mix up everything. I don't want folks just to come here for RV stuff, because there's other things that we like to do as well. And you know, as a content creator, different types of content are always really important. And I like creating content on things that I'm doing, primarily tasks that I'm doing, as long as it doesn't interfere with the time that I spend with my family and my kids. That's time that you can't get back. You can't refund that time. You can't do a do-over. None of that. If you don't spend time with your family when you get an opportunity to, it's going to pass you by and you're going to have all sorts of regrets, and I don't want that. So when we're camping, when we're out as a family, I spend time with my family. If they're gone doing something and I happen to be there by myself, or if I arrive early at a campground, well then that's the time I can use to produce, you know, other types of content for you all, things that I'm doing at campgrounds, and I've done that before. But when my family's around me, it's my family time, and it's just time I like to spend with them, dedicate to them, and focus on them, because it's very important that I have that proper work-life balance between a full-time engineering job, between YouTube, which is essentially a full-time job, between the editing. You know, a 10-minute video takes 2 hours to edit, at least. A 20-minute video can take up to 8 hours to edit. So that's a lot of editing time that I'm not spending with them. And again, I just want to allocate my time the right way, and I want to do the right thing to my family, because they're the most important thing to me. Guys, if you haven't had a chance, I'd really appreciate it if you took a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up. I'll put a link in the description of this video if you're interested in those Flexzilla hoses, because they work really well and they were recommended to me, so I'm recommending them to y'all. Anyways, we'll talk to you again very soon.